The mission, opening the hearts of humanity. How we're going to do that? The first step is in training and learning the Trinity Toroidal Master Breath technique. First, we clear the cache, because we are a biological computer and we have programs running in the background, and how you cease the chatter is to quiet the computer that has these files running in the background. And this is what it sounds like. You're going to take the deepest breath you can in an exaggerated manner, sort of cleaning the pipes, and just having the flow of the breath passing through the brain and down into the stomach, which is the oyster, the old files from the DNA that's before us. And we do this 3 times. And then we'll move on to the next segment. Now I'm going to introduce you to what is the Trinity Toroidal Master Breath technique. In sacred geometry, I discovered that their triangle is the first plane in 3D. I don't know about the other dimensions, but we're here. And to do that, the sound, like in all the creation stories, first there was the word, but the word is the sound. Then there was light. So when you take this, what I call the divine gulp, which has all this monoatomic gold and filaments in the field around us that we perceive as empty and as not. These filaments are chargers, which when we breathe in to the heart, awakens with certain frequencies the dormant information waiting for us to raise our frequencies to where we can meet what our next evolutionary step is. The 432 is a frequency that wakens our own synergistic connection with that, which then activates the dormant 12 strand that's waiting for activation. So this particular technique starts in a balanced fashion, and we use the Trinity. So in training, I suggest doing short bursts of what I'm about to demonstrate to you. The word is Ma. One word. And then in the triangle, I'm going to introduce what I call the divine gulp. And that is those monoatomic filaments that we're going to, like a surprise. And when we bring it in, it's like, like the divine masculine being brought into the divine feminine through the heart. It's the merge of ourselves in balance. Okay, the purpose of the Trinity Toroidal Breath technique is to open the next octave of our evolution by going through the soul's organ, which is the heart. There, waiting for the tones to align, is the tools for the next evolution of ourselves. Okay, I'll show you this technique. So we're going to take that gulp and breathe into the heart and send that deliciousness down to the solar plexus, and then release. And then we're going to sip up, much like a straw, and sip like a fine wine the air up through your throat, and then release it. You'll never be holding your breath. You'll just be moving along like a song and receiving the sound and sending that in the same syllable expressed differently to one word, M to the fourth power. Your body's involved in each of these segments that I'll be introducing, even the first three, what I call mind-brain breaths, to clear the cache. And then we move on to this Trinity breath I'm explaining to you. And there'll be more segments to it. In these segments, you're receiving it and you're using it in your heart. So you're learning that, because we're not used to that, receiving that love from ourselves, our higher selves, which is us. And we are the guardians of this body's journey and what is happening with the personality. So in receiving that, you're taking that and you're delivering it in your system. When you go, your belly button goes to your spine. So that's the feeling you'll get. You'll build a muscle so that you have control of your grounding. In that release at the end of that breath, you're going to sip up through your throat like a flute. Now, if you blow on a flute, you're not just going to blow on it. You have fingers that decide how much air and how the sound is going to be. And instead of fingers, you're going to use your throat. So if I should go, say, blow on a flute or drag in air and not use my fingers, it's going to sound like this. There's no length of breath. And then if I go halfway, it sounds like. So you go a little further, but I found that I'm in my chest. Okay, so now if I go all the way, if you make an elliptical with your finger, or if you make faces on your hand, and you put your thumb to your pointer finger, and you just go close, like your throat is touching, it's too much, so that's going to be an irritant. But just shy of that contact, of that is, it's kind of delicious. It's like I call it the ascension part of the breath. Because you've warmed the heart, you're going, You're going, And if you'll notice, there's a connection. Even though I'm separating it, I'm not stopping like, although those are the syllables. So it's connected. It's like a song. So it's And in the final run, you'll be receiving that sound. You'll be feeling that sound sent to your birth line, your time line, your solar plexus. And then you'll be bringing it up through the heart again in the third edge of the triangle, and then releasing through the top to get that breath again. And in the advanced one, again, you're going to have a part 2, which is including your perineum, because that marries the body, mind, and soul connection. So all of you is participating in this shift, in this ascension process. And anytime you're listening to instruction, your mind is engaging, because we haven't neutralized it yet as training wheels. So it's always good when you're in the middle of a process to take time out and then give it another 3 breaths, sometimes just 1, depending. But you'll know that that's clearing the cache, because you're gathering information, so the programs start running again. So we're going to do that. Now when I breathe out, it sounds like you're hearing it from my mouth, but it's actually going down and releasing in my solar plexus. In the final, when you really master the song of this 432 connection and the Trinity Toroidal Master Breath technique, you will have this grounding, which will allow you to play with the parts until it really resonates. And when it clicks, you will never be the same again. As you have mastered the exaggeration of these, really pushing it, really finding the fine tuning of that, In the end, you can be standing at a bus stop or driving down the street or walking in a supermarket and just walk past and go, and I've done this just for myself, and I would go, but if you're teaching it to someone and you have to start with the exaggerated portion to really learn the song, to clear the pipes, to gain the muscle, to feel that which is when you do this. And then when you click in, the silent one works in a second, a nanosecond. You can be in any condition of a surprise upset. If we're all screaming, who's going to row the boat? So if you have something happening, you can instantly breathe within seconds and shift into that space, and you'll know how to be of service, not only to yourself. It's like on a plane. They say first you put your life jacket on and your mask, and then you can help others. This is similar. It's a wonderful tool for this. Okay, the next segment. It's really good to start with short, equidistant points until you master how you're going to do this. Organically, your body will be able to take in deeper breaths and tones and release, and let that happen automatically as you own this process for yourself. Eventually, this is like part 1 and 2 of how you get to the final breath, which is the toroidal breath in its complete form. Now that you've opened your heart with the Trinity Toroidal Breath technique, then you move into the master breath technique of accessing the entire spiritual energy system, a la Alex Gray's version in Sacred Mirrors. It sounds something like this. On the larger portion of accessing the whole full spectrum of our spiritual energy system, there's more parts to it. We change from the Trinity, which is a triad, to the whole toroid. And the only difference here is elongating the segments, which you'll go from the count of 3, and then you'll expand to the count of 6, and then you can expand to however degree that you can invent after that. But the basics will get you going. At the top and at the bottom of the toroid, of the images that you can see here, there's a 0 point, and it's the natural, organic 0 point of ourselves without using the tools of wands and jewelry. I'm just going to give you a preview explanation of what it's like after you open and expand your heart circuits that will allow you access into the larger toroidal atmosphere, which is your spiritual energy system, a la Alex Gray in Sacred Mirrors. And you'll see the image here. The difference is that the breaths are longer, but you will have practiced and gained a muscle in the first technique of the Trinity Toroidal Breath. And at the top of each, outside your crown, where your toroidal access is, and at your feet, that's called 0 point. And what 0 point does is that when you're activating your system like that, all the old files that have been collected in your field are deleted because it's in the Akashic. You don't need it. You can access it anytime you want. like the Matrix. It's in the library of all that is. So you don't carry that with you. So when you're breathing in this fashion, and you do the the down breath all the way to the that silence is not holding your breath. What it is, it's 0 point, so it's a release. It's like a sustain. Same thing when you do the ascension part of the breath, and you go up. That's a suspend. It's not holding your breath. You feel like this place where you're weightless. And that's the process that actually does clear the cache completely. And it allows room in your hard drive to download the next thing in your path. We're all on different places. So we'll be just whatever's next will be balanced, present, well. All your maladies will be shifted. I went from death to life in about 45 minutes with this process that I discovered actually accidentally. So okay, we're going to begin. If you find yourself coughing or choking, or your voice is rattly or breaks up, that's really a good sign. If you find yourself going backwards and forwards and feeling like you're, not getting this, it's because your circuits, your older circuits of survival, are acting out. It's going back and forth and doesn't know this new technique, so it's used to surviving the way we've been surviving. So it'll fight you on it a little bit, but it's just a circuit. And so what we're doing is we're shifting from one circuit to the other. And this circuit will require your voice changing at certain places. And as you get more present, your voice gets a little more resonant, and you're more seated in your soul and in yourself. Mm. 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 Okay, now I'm going to be doing it. You have to do it yourself to feel it. And we're incorporating all of these points, these nexus points, between the tone and the breath and the body points of receiving it in the heart and transforming that deliciousness down to your core, which is your solar plexus. And then that energy goes into the earth. And we collect that energy and we sip it up. And we bring it up and through and at our crown. So that you're making a clean new path of connection with the Trinity. And I suggest that when you're doing it, have your hand motion. When you're doing this, you can make a triangle in the air so that you see that the segments are equal distance. This will bring you closer to not only the training, but to the release of the endorphins, which is what you're waiting for. That's your graduation prize, if you will. As you take in that breath to the heart, you exercise by pulling up your perineum. So you're meeting that muscle, like in Tantra, Kundalini, and you bring it up to meet the place in the heart. So you're bringing it up from above, and you're placing that sound into your heart. And then as you release by going, the is a roll, and it comes from the heart, from receiving the You can hear it's one continuous sound, and one is the tone, and the other one is the relief and building the muscle to ground yourself. So, and you're grabbing up your perineum, and then you're not dropping all at once. You're not releasing the perineum right away. You're rolling it. And as your breath goes, it's still gathered from when you took it in. And as you go, you slowly release it so that when you're saying the part, then you release your perineum. And do the exercise in segments of 3, not only because it's easier to do your segments, but it's also the Trinity. So that when you do click in, you're still in tandem with the sacred geometry, which is the entry point from here to the next plateau, the next octave of where you intend to go. Okay, with that in mind, and with the imagery that you're provided with, you'll be able to see how this process works with the points that you bring it into and the body parts that you're also marrying into this, so that it's all of you that are accessing this. Because you don't want to be in your head and float away, and you don't want to be dense in the body because you can't access heaven on earth. And so you're marrying these components so that you have all of yourself in which to ascend. Okay, you will go through the whole process. And play with it to make it fun, so you're not so stuck in the head of getting it right and the geometry. I discovered it by accident, by just doing it. And I had pneumonia, so I couldn't do the longer breath, which I discovered first in a near-death other experience many years ago. And so for this, when I activated the short bursts, it led me into a whole nother octave. So what I was doing is playing with it like, Eventually, you're going to feel the vibration in your heart, not your throat, not your head, and you're also going to be able to feel it behind your heart. It'll just be a straight channel through. And then with the You're getting used to that because it's maybe different to go from a tone, and some people go, they incorporate the sound. You'll find yourself doing that. That's part of the circuit, no problem. So then eventually you'll have the strength and the most delicious grounding heartbeat. You'll be incorporating things like playing with the sound, with the till you get it to where it's natural and powerful. Then you practice the next segment and you bring in the and when I do that, I'm releasing the perineum on a roll. And then it releases. So it releases so that when you get, that's the part that's in the 0 point. And then when you pull up in the ascension breath part through your throat, then you're going to again pull in your perineum. So it's going to go pull in your perineum to receive, to release and suspend, and then to pull up your perineum and ascend. And when you get to that last breath, you let go of your perineum. So it has 4 steps. You're letting go to, and you're pulling into. Got it?